The battlefield was silent now. Smoke rose into the dark sky and broken ships lay scattered across the ground. Among the ashes and metal, a young alien girl lay on the cold earth. Her body was small, fragile, and her legs did not move. She could not stand. She could not run. Her people had left her. Moments earlier she had seen them, her own kind, running toward the ships, shouting in fear. She had called out to them, her hands reached for them, but they only looked back once, with cold, hard eyes. Then they turned away and climbed inside their ships. The engines burned and the ships rose into the sky, leaving her behind. Her chest hurt more than her broken body. They had abandoned her, not because they could not save her, but because she was weak, a burden. The ground shook again. Far away, explosions echoed. The war between humans and aliens was not over yet. The girl's eyes filled with tears. She was alone, she was paralyzed, and she was sure death was near. Her breathing grew shallow. Around her, the air smelled of blood and burned stone. She tried to move her legs, but they remained still, useless. She thought of her family. Did they not love her? Did they not care? Why would they leave her to die like this? Minutes passed. Silence surrounded her. She thought this was the end. Then, footsteps. The sound was heavy, slow, and strong. A shadow appeared between the smoke. A figure was walking closer. It was not alien. It was human. The girl's eyes widened. Fear rushed through her. Humans were the enemy. Humans killed her people. Humans destroyed her city. And now, one was walking toward her. The man stopped a few steps away. His clothes were torn, covered in dust and blood. A long rifle was strapped to his back, but his hands were empty. His face was hard, yet his eyes studied her with something she did not understand. She wanted to scream, to crawl away, but her body betrayed her. Her arms were weak, her legs useless. She could only stare. The man bent down, lowering himself to her level. For a moment, neither moved. The wind carried the smell of war between them. His eyes narrowed. He could see she was paralyzed. He could see she was helpless. She thought this was the moment of death, but his hand did not reach for a weapon. Instead, it reached toward her, slowly, carefully. The girl trembled. Her breath caught. Why? Why was he doing this? The man's voice finally broke the silence, low, rough, and tired. You're not going anywhere, are you? She did not understand all the words, but she felt the tone. It was not cruel, it was not sharp, it was heavy, like someone carrying a great weight. He looked at her legs, then back into her eyes. He sighed. You're just a child. The girl blinked, confused. His voice sounded different from the voices of soldiers who shouted orders and killed without mercy. This voice was almost human. Still, her heart raced with fear. Why would a human spare her? The man glanced around. The battlefield was dangerous. Other soldiers, human and alien, might return at any moment. His mind told him to leave her. She was the enemy. She was broken. She was nothing but trouble. But his heart would not let him move. He pressed his lips together. Memories of war flashed in his head. He remembered children crying in destroyed human cities. He remembered mothers begging for mercy. And now here she was, a broken child, left by her own kind. The man reached under her, lifting her into his arms. Her body stiffened with shock. She tried to resist, but she was too weak. Her small hands only pushed gently against his chest. Her voice cracked with a soft, frightened sound. But the man did not let go. His arms were strong, steady. He carried her as if she weighed nothing. She stared at him, eyes wide, searching for answers. Why would he do this? Why would a human save her? The man looked down at her, his jaw tight. He did not know the answer either. All he knew was that he could not walk away. Behind them, fire burned in the ruins. The night sky glowed red with destruction. Ahead, the road was uncertain, full of danger, but he kept walking, holding the girl close. She was the enemy, she was paralyzed, she was abandoned. Yet for the first time in her life, someone did not leave her behind, and that someone was human. The man carried the alien girl through the ruins, his boots crunching over broken stone and twisted metal. Every step was heavy, not because of her weight, but because of the choice he had made. His name was Elias, and he was a soldier who no longer wanted war. The girl rested weakly in his arms. Her small body trembled. Her eyes, bright and alien, never left his face. She did not speak his language, but he could see her confusion. Why was he holding her? Why had he not left her like the others? Elias asked himself the same question. He could have turned away. He should have turned away. She was the enemy after all. Every soldier he had fought, every wound on his body, every scar on his mind, all of it came from her kind. And yet, When he saw her broken on the ground, he could not lift his gun. He could not walk past her. "Damn it," he muttered under his breath. The road stretched long and dark. In the distance, smoke and fire painted the horizon. The war had ended here, but battles raged in other places. He had no home to return to. His unit was gone. He was alone. Now, not so alone. The girl's eyes closed for a moment, her breath shallow. Elias slowed his steps. She was paralyzed. He could feel it in the way her body hung limp. Her legs did not move. Only her small hands clutched at his jacket, weak but desperate. He sighed. "You're just a kid." She stirred at the sound of his voice. She did not understand the words, but she felt the tone. It was not harsh. It was not cold. It carried something she had not heard in a long time. Care. Elias reached the edge of the battlefield. An old shelter, half broken, stood among the ruins. Its roof sagged, but it was safer than open ground. He pushed the door and stepped inside. The room smelled of dust and rust. Broken chairs, shattered glass, and scraps of old machines covered the floor. But there was space, a place to rest. He set her down carefully on a piece of cloth. She winced at first, but then relaxed. Her glowing eyes followed him as he searched the shelter. Elias found a small can of water. He knelt beside her and raised it to her lips. She hesitated, staring at the strange object, then drank. The cool water slid down her throat, and for the first time that day she felt relief. When she finished, Elias leaned back against the wall. His body ached. His mind raced. "What am I doing?" he thought. "If the others see me, they'll call me a traitor. If they find her, they'll kill her, and maybe me too." He rubbed his face with both hands. He had lived through many battles, but this was the first time he faced such a strange fight, one inside his own heart. The girl made a soft sound. Elias looked at her. Her eyes, wide and shining, were full of something he did not expect. Trust. She feared him, yes, but deep inside, she trusted him more than she had trusted her own people who had abandoned her. That look pierced him deeper than any blade. He turned away, but he could still feel her gaze. Night fell slowly outside. Shadows filled the shelter. Elias lit a small fire in a broken metal bowl. The warmth spread across the room. The girl watched the flames, her reflection glowing in her eyes. Elias broke the silence. His voice was rough, tired, but soft. "My name's Elias," he said. He tapped his chest. "Elias." The girl blinked, tilting her head slightly. He pointed to her, waiting. "You?" Her lips parted. "Ed," but only a broken sound escaped. Her throat trembled. She tried again, and a soft, strange word came out. Elias could not understand it, but he knew it was her name. He nodded. "All right, that's your name." For a moment, they simply sat there. The fire cracked softly. Outside, the wind howled through the ruins. Inside, two enemies shared silence, water, and warmth. Elias closed his eyes, leaning his head back against the wall. He thought of orders, of commanders, of the rules of war. He thought of what humans would say if they saw him now. They would call him weak. They would call him a fool. But when he opened his eyes again and saw her watching him, broken, paralyzed, yet alive, he knew one thing. He could not abandon her. Not tonight, not tomorrow, not ever. For the first time in years, Elias felt something he thought was long dead. Something more powerful than duty, more powerful than hate. Hope. He did not know what the future held. He did not know how long he could protect her, but he made his choice here, in the ruins, with firelight between them. He would keep her alive, even if the whole world turned against him. Morning light crept through the cracks of the ruined shelter. Elias woke to the sound of quiet breathing beside him. The alien girl lay still, her small chest rising and falling slowly. Her eyes opened, weak but watchful. She had survived the night. Elias rubbed his tired eyes. He had not slept much. Thoughts of danger chased him all night. He knew hiding her would not remain a secret forever. Humans were near. Survivors from his side had gathered in the nearby town. If they found her, they would not forgive him. Still, he looked at the girl and felt the same pull he had felt the night before. He had chosen her. He could not turn back now. "Time to move," he muttered, rising to his feet. He wrapped her in a torn blanket and lifted her gently. Her body was light, almost weightless, but her presence was heavy in his heart. Each step he took carried more risk. The road to the town was broken and silent. Burned vehicles lay twisted on the sides. Birds circled above, drawn by the death of war. Elias walked carefully, his eyes scanning for danger. By the time he reached the town, the sun was high. Smoke rose from chimneys of rebuilt homes. Humans had returned here, trying to start again after the battle. Elias knew some of them. Old soldiers, farmers, mothers, children. They had lost much in this war. And now he was about to walk in carrying one of the enemy. As he stepped onto the main street, people turned. Their eyes narrowed. Their whispers grew sharp. Is that... He's carrying one of them. A child. No, look at her eyes. She's alien. Elias kept walking, but he felt every stare burn into his back. He reached an old stone building where a group of men stood guard. They were soldiers once, like him. Now they kept order in the town. One of them stepped forward, his jaw tight. His name was Marlowe, an old comrade. Elias, Marlowe said, his voice hard. What the hell is that in your arms? Elias shifted his grip on the girl. Her eyes darted around nervously. She could feel the hatred pressing in from all sides. She's just a child, Elias said. His voice was calm, but inside he braced for a fight. Marlowe spat on the ground. She's not a child, she's one of them. Her kind burned our homes, they killed our families, and you bring her here? Are you insane? The crowd grew, faces twisted with anger. Some shouted, "Throw it out! Finish her before she kills us all. She doesn't belong here." The girl whimpered softly, pressing her face into Elias's chest. She did not understand the words, but she felt the hatred. Her body shook. Elias stood tall, his voice cut through the noise. She's paralyzed. She's helpless. Look at her. Does she look like a soldier to you? She can't even walk. But his words only made the anger sharper. That makes her worse, someone shouted. She's useless to them, so they threw her away. You think that makes her safe? No, that makes her dangerous. They abandon the weak. They don't deserve saving. Elias's hand tightened on the girl's shoulder. His heart pounded. He knew these people's pain. He had fought beside them. He had buried friends with them. But now, they stood on the other side of him, ready to tear away the one life he had chosen to protect. Marlowe stepped closer. His voice dropped cold and firm. Elias, you've lost too much blood in this war. You're not thinking straight. Hand her over. We'll deal with it. Do the right thing. The girl lifted her head. Her eyes wide and shining looked at Elias. She did not know the words, but she knew the moment. If he let her go now, she was finished. Elias swallowed hard. His voice was low but steady. No, she stays with me. Gasps rippled through the crowd. Marlowe's face darkened. Do you realize what you're saying? You're protecting the enemy. You're choosing her over your own people. Elias's jaw clenched. I'm choosing what's right. Silence fell for a breath. Then shouts exploded again. Some cursed him. Some demanded he be cast out. Some reached for stones. Elias shifted his stance, ready to defend. His arms held the girl close like a shield. His voice rose above the chaos. You call yourselves survivors. You say you want to rebuild. Then start here. Start by showing mercy. She's just a child. She has no weapon. She has no army. She only has me, and I will not let you harm her. The fire in his words stopped them for a moment. Marlowe glared at him, torn between rage and something else. Shame. The crowd murmured, restless. Some lowered their stones. Others turned away, muttering curses. Finally, Marlowe spat again and stepped back. You're a fool, Elias. Don't expect us to save you when she turns on you. You made your choice. Now live with it. The crowd slowly thinned, though angry eyes still burned into Elias's back. He stood there, heart racing, until the last voices faded. He looked down at the girl. She stared up at him, trembling, but in her eyes there was something new, not just fear. Trust. Elias exhaled slowly. He knew the road ahead would be harder now. He was no longer just a man with a strange burden. He was a man against his own people. But when he saw the small spark of trust in her eyes, he knew he would not turn back. The town had turned its back on Elias. The people watched him with suspicion, whispering whenever he passed. Some spat on the ground as he walked by. Others crossed the street, refusing to look at him. But Elias no longer cared for their stares. He had chosen his path. What mattered now was the small life he carried with him, the paralyzed alien girl. He found shelter in an abandoned house at the edge of town. Its roof leaked when it rained, and the walls were cracked, but it gave them a place to rest away from angry eyes. He laid her on a mattress stuffed with old straw and sat near the broken window, keeping watch. The girl hardly spoke. Sometimes, soft sounds slipped from her lips, strange tones, like music from another world. Elias didn't understand the words, but he listened carefully. He answered in his own language, hoping his calm voice would tell her she was safe. Days passed in silence, broken only by the wind outside and the faint crackle of a small fire. Elias hunted for food in the forests. He brought back roots, dried bread, and sometimes fish from the river. Slowly, he began to share little things with her. Simple words, simple actions. He tapped his chest. Elias. Her glowing eyes blinked. She tried to copy the sound, her lips trembling. Yes. The sound was weak, broken, but it made Elias smile for the first time in months. That's right, Elias. He pointed at her. You? She hesitated. Then, with effort, she whispered a soft alien word, long and delicate. Elias couldn't repeat it perfectly, but he nodded. That's your name. She gave the faintest smile. It was small, almost hidden, but it reached her eyes. For a girl abandoned and hated, even a moment of recognition felt like light breaking through the dark. Every evening, Elias sat with her by the fire. He told her short stories in his rough human tongue. He spoke of the rivers before the war, of children running through fields, of laughter he once heard but no longer found. She didn't understand the words, yet she listened, her gaze fixed on him as if the rhythm of his voice was enough. One night, as rain tapped against the broken roof, she surprised him. She lifted her small hand, trembling, and pointed at the flame. Then, in her voice, she made a soft alien word. Elias frowned, listening. She repeated it. He realized it was her word for fire. He nodded. Yes, fire. He said the human word slowly, tapping the flame. Fire. Her lips shaped the sound. Re. Elias chuckled. Good. You're learning. From then on, they built a fragile bridge between two worlds. Each day, one new word. Water, food, sky, safe. She tried, and though her voice was broken, she grew stronger with each attempt. But it was not only words that bound them. One evening, Elias returned from the forest with scratches on his arm. The girl saw the blood and made a worried sound. Her small hands, weak as they were, reached toward him. She tried to touch the wound, though her fingers shook. Elias froze. She had never touched him before, not willingly. Now she was reaching out, not in fear, but in care. He let her hand rest on his arm. Her touch was gentle, almost weightless. Her eyes shone with concern. I'm fine, Elias whispered, though he knew she couldn't understand. Still, he felt warmth spread in his chest. For years, the war had taken everything from him, his comrades, his family, his hope. But in that small touch, in those glowing eyes that looked at him not as an enemy but as someone to trust, Elias felt something return. Still, danger lingered outside. Whispers grew in the town. People saw Elias had lost his mind. Some said he was raising the alien child to betray them. Others said she carried a curse. A few even planned to drive him out. Elias knew the day would come when they would try. He could see it in their eyes when he went to gather supplies. But when he looked at the girl, when he saw her struggle each day to learn one more word, to smile one more time, he knew he would face whatever storm came. The girl began to laugh. The first time, it startled him. He had been telling her about the clumsy way fish slipped from his hands, and suddenly a light, airy sound spilled from her lips. A laugh. It was soft, weak, broken by her breath, but it was real. Elias froze, then smiled wider than he thought possible. The sound filled the ruined house, chasing away the silence of war. In that moment, Elias realized he was no longer only protecting her. She was giving something back. She was healing a part of him he thought was lost forever. The fragile bond between them was no longer just survival. It was trust. It was care. It was the beginning of something stronger than war. The fragile peace did not last. Days had turned into weeks since Elias brought the girl into his life. Each morning she tried to speak new words. Each night she listened to his stories by the fire. Their bond grew stronger, but danger always hung above them like a storm cloud waiting to break. The town never forgot. Whispers followed Elias whenever he went for supplies. People muttered behind his back. Some threw stones at the ground near his feet. Others shouted, "Traitor," from the shadows. He ignored them, but he knew their hatred was growing. One evening, as Elias returned from the forest, he noticed something strange. A trail of footprints pressed into the mud, footprints too heavy and too sharp to belong to humans. He knelt down, touching the marks. His jaw tightened. Aliens. They were searching the land again. He carried the fish he had caught back to the house, but his mind burned with worry. The girl sat on the mattress when he entered, her bright eyes lifting at the sight of him. She tried to say his name, her broken voice soft. Elias. He forced a smile, setting the fish aside. Yes, it's me, Elias. But inside, his heart was heavy. He did not tell her what he had seen. Not yet. That night, as the fire crackled, Elias sharpened his knife. The girl watched him carefully, sensing the change in him. He usually told stories before sleep, but tonight, he was silent. his eyes fixed on the blade. The girl finally whispered a word she had learned. Safe? Her voice trembled. Elias paused. He looked at her and nodded. I'll keep you safe. But his mind whispered a darker truth. I don't know if I can. The next day, Elias went into the forest again. This time, he moved with the stealth of a hunter. He followed the tracks deeper and deeper until he saw them. 3 alien soldiers, tall and armored, moved among the trees. Their weapons glowed faintly, humming with deadly power. They spoke in sharp tones Elias could not understand, but he knew what they were doing. They were hunting survivors. He crouched behind a fallen log, watching them. His heart pounded. If they found the girl, they would kill her without hesitation. To them, she was worthless, weak, paralyzed, abandoned. Her life meant nothing to them. But to Elias, her life meant everything. He clenched his fists. He had to prepare. That evening, Elias reinforced the old house. He dragged heavy wood to block the door. He sharpened metal scraps into makeshift weapons. The girl watched him, her glowing eyes wide with fear. She knew. She might not understand every word, but she felt it. Danger was close. She made a small sound, pointing to the window. Them? Elias froze. She had seen them before. She remembered their faces, their armor, their cruelty. Her own kind, the ones who had abandoned her. Elias knelt beside her, sighing a hand gently on her shoulder. Yes, them. Her breath quickened. She whispered again, almost too soft to hear. Kill me. Elias's chest tightened. His eyes widened. He shook his head firmly. No, never. But she looked at him with tears in her eyes. She had lived with her people long enough to know their ways. To them, weakness was shame. To them, death was better than being saved by a human. She thought if they found her, Elias would die trying to protect her. She didn't want that. Elias gripped her hand. His voice was strong, steady. I will never let them take you. Do you hear me? Never. For a long moment, the girl stared at him, her tears shining in the firelight. Then she nodded weakly, trusting him once more. The next night, the threat became real. Elias was half asleep when a sound woke him, the snap of a branch outside. He sat up, knife in hand. The girl stirred, sensing the danger. Voices echoed through the dark, sharp alien voices. The soldiers were near. Elias moved to the window. Through the cracks, he saw shadows moving among the trees, glowing armor, the hum of energy weapons. His pulse quickened. They found us, he whispered. The girl gasped softly, her body trembling. She tried to push herself up, but her legs would not move. She was trapped. Elias turned to her, his face hard but calm. Stay quiet. Stay strong. The soldiers drew closer. Their heavy steps shook the ground. One raised a scanner, its blue light sweeping across the forest. It stopped on the house. Elias gripped his knife tighter. He had only one weapon, one man against 3 trained soldiers. It was madness. But then he looked at the girl. Her eyes met his, glowing with fear and trust. She whispered one word, broken but clear. Protect her. Elias's breath caught. The word hit him like a blade and a blessing at the same time. Protector. That was what she saw. In him. Not a soldier, not a killer. Her protector. He turned back toward the door, standing tall in the firelight. His shadow stretched across the room, long and strong. The soldiers outside approached. The house shook with the weight of their steps. Elias's jaw tightened. His heart pounded. His knife gleamed in his hand. He was only human. But tonight, he would face them all. The night was heavy with silence, broken only by the soft hum of alien weapons outside. Elias stood near the door, knife in hand, his chest rising and falling with steady breaths. He knew he was one man against 3 soldiers. He knew the odds, but retreat was no longer an option. Behind him, the girl lay trembling on the mattress. Her glowing eyes followed his every move. She was paralyzed, weak and helpless, but her voice had given him strength. Protector. That single word burned inside him like fire. The wooden door shuddered as a heavy hand slammed against it. A deep alien voice barked something sharp and cold. The second strike cracked the wood. The third would break it. Elias's grip tightened. His thoughts raced. He had no rifle, no armor, no backup. All he had was his body, his blade, and his will. The door splintered. With a crash, it broke inward. 3 tall figures stepped into the house, their armor glowing faintly, their eyes hidden behind cruel masks. Weapons hummed in their hands, ready to end any life they saw. The girl whimpered softly, pressing her hands to her chest. The sound drew their attention. One soldier barked a harsh laugh. He spoke words Elias didn't understand, but the meaning was clear. They had found what they came for. They stepped toward her. Elias moved. Like a shadow, he darted between them and the girl. His knife flashed in the firelight. He struck at the nearest soldier, the blade scraping across alien armor. Sparks flew. The soldier growled, stumbling back. The other two raised their weapons. A blast of energy ripped through the air. Elias dove aside, the heat searing past his face. He rolled, came up fast, and lashed again. His blade cut into the gap beneath one soldier's arm. The alien roared in pain, stumbling. But Elias was only human. Their armor was strong, their weapons deadly. One soldier swung his arm, striking Elias across the chest. The blow sent him crashing into the wall. Pain exploded through his body, but he forced himself back up. His knife dripped with alien blood. His vision blurred, yet his legs held firm. Behind him, the girl cried out. Her weak voice rose louder than ever before. Elias! He turned his head. Her face glowed with terror, but her voice carried something new. Power. Her cry was not just fear. It was warning. Elias spun just as another blast fired. He threw himself aside, the beam scorching the floor where he had stood. Her cry had saved him. Rage filled him. He charged, slamming into the soldier with all his strength. His knife plunged deep into the alien's throat, where the armor was weakest. The soldier gurgled and collapsed. But another weapon fired. The blast struck Elias across the side. White-hot pain ripped through him. He fell to one knee, blood pouring from the wound. The girl screamed. She had never screamed before, not like this. Her voice echoed through the ruined house, raw and broken, filled with despair. For a moment, even the soldiers paused. Elias forced himself up. His body shook. His wound burned, but he stood between her and death. His knife trembled in his grip, but his eyes were steady. The soldiers raised their weapons again. He knew he could not stop both. Not with his body broken, not with his strength fading. Still, he spread his arms wide, shielding the girl with his body. His voice was rough, heavy with pain, but stronger than any blade. You will not touch her. The soldiers snarled, stepping forward. Energy built in their weapons. Then, something changed. The girl's eyes blazed brighter than before. She pushed her voice out with all her strength. Not broken, not weak. Clear. Protect her. The word shook the air. Elias turned, stunned. For the first time, her voice carried perfectly without stutter or break. The firelight reflected in her eyes, glowing like twin stars. The soldiers froze. The sound seemed to strike them, not like a weapon, but like a memory, something forbidden, something they did not expect. Elias used that moment. With a roar, he lunged at the nearest soldier. His knife slashed across the alien's throat, blood spraying as the soldier collapsed. The last one swung his weapon down, but Elias caught his arm, driving the blade deep into the joint. The soldier screamed, stumbling back, then fell. Silence crashed into the room. The fight was over. Elias dropped to his knees, his body shaking. Blood dripped from his side. His vision swam. He gasped for air, forcing himself to stay conscious. The girl's eyes filled with tears. She reached toward him, her weak hand trembling in the firelight. Protect her, she whispered again, her voice soft but steady. Elias looked at her, his face pale, his breath shallow. He tried to smile. Always. He collapsed beside her, his hand still gripping hers. The girl held his hand tightly, her tears falling onto his skin. She had been abandoned by her people, left to die in the dirt. But tonight, for the first time, she was not alone. And though Elias was broken and bleeding, his sacrifice had given her something she thought she would never feel again. The house was silent after the battle. The smell of smoke and blood filled the air. Broken bodies of alien soldiers lay scattered across the floor, their armor cracked, their weapons dead. Elias sat against the wall, his chest rising and falling in uneven breaths. His side burned where the blast had struck him. Blood stained his shirt, but his eyes remained open, locked on the small figure before him. The alien girl. She had not looked away during the fight. She had seen his pain, his wounds, his sacrifice. And in her fears, she had found her voice clear and strong, a single word that changed everything. Protect her. Now she crawled with her weak arms, dragging herself closer to him. Her legs were useless, but her will was not. She reached him, her trembling hand pressing against his chest, her glowing eyes filled with tears. Elias, she whispered. He smiled faintly, though his lips were pale. Still here. She shook her head, tears slipping down her cheeks. Her voice was broken again, soft and uneven. No. Die. Elias reached up, weak but steady, and brushed her cheek with his rough hand. Not yet. Outside, the town had heard the noise of battle. A crowd gathered, carrying torches and makeshift weapons. They had expected to find Elias dead, the alien girl exposed. Instead, they found him alive, and 3 alien soldiers lying dead at his feet. Whispers rippled through the crowd. He killed them? Alone? Impossible. Their eyes turned to the girl. She sat beside Elias, clutching his hand with both of hers. She should have looked like the enemy. She should have looked like a curse. But tonight, in the firelight, she looked different. Small, broken, but alive. And in her eyes, there was not hatred. There was only trust. Marlowe pushed through the crowd, his face dark with shock. He looked from the corpses to Elias, then to the girl. His voice was sharp, but quieter than before. You fought for her? You bled for her? Elias's voice was rough but firm. She's just a child. Your people abandoned her. Her people abandoned her. But I will not. The crowd murmured again, torn between anger and awe. She spoke, Elias said, his eyes flicking to the girl. Not in hate, not in war. She called me protector. She chose me. At those words, the girl raised her head. Her voice trembled, but she forced it out, loud enough for all to hear. Protector. The word echoed in the night. Air. The humans fell silent. Even Marlowe froze. It was the first time any of them had heard an alien voice without threats or cruelty. Just one word, filled with trust. For a long moment, no one moved. The firelight flickered on their faces, showing doubt, fear, and something else. Hope. In the days that followed, the story spread. The tale of one man who had defied both sides, his own people's hatred and the aliens' cruelty. He had protected a broken child who should have been worthless, and in doing so, he had shown something greater than strength. Humanity. Some still hated the girl, some still whispered behind Elias's back, but others began to see her differently. They brought food to the broken house, they left blankets by the door. One old woman even brought medicine for Elias's wounds. The girl watched it all with wide eyes. For the first time, humans were not throwing stones. For the first time, she was not left behind. Every night she sat by the fire with Elias. She spoke new words, slowly, carefully. Each one brought a smile to his face, and each one brought her closer to becoming more than abandoned, more than paralyzed. She was alive, and she was loved. One evening, Elias carried her outside. The stars burned bright across the sky. The girl tilted her head back, her glowing eyes wide with wonder. She raised a trembling hand, pointing at the sky. Home? She asked softly. Elias shook his head. Not anymore. This is your home now. She looked at him, then at the stars again. For a moment, sadness filled her eyes. But then, slowly, she smiled. Elias tightened his hold on her. They abandoned you, but I won't. You're not alone anymore. She leaned her head against his chest. Her voice was barely a whisper. Safe. Elias closed his eyes. For so long he had carried the weight of war, of loss, of pain. But here, holding the child who had once been nothing more than an enemy, he felt something he thought was gone forever. Peace. And so the story of the abandoned alien girl and the human who protected her became something greater than survival. It became proof that mercy could break walls where weapons failed, that love could rise even in the ashes of war. And in the dark silence of the universe where cruelty often ruled, one truth burned brighter than any star. When the stars forget mercy, only humans remember.